and Dim up to Nalufenya. By reaching Nalufenya, we were passing through dead bodies. Everything was now out of our control. So the news did not found me, but I was involved in the news, and I narrowly survived.
Thank you, Vijira. Let's have more contributions. For those who do not know, Nalufenya is a notorious prison in Uganda, notorious for torture, unlawful detentions, and killings.
Yes, thank you so much. Nyeko Derek, Member of Parliament for Makindye East and Shadow Minister for Presidency and Security. Well, this news found me in the field when I got to learn that our president was arrested. Immediately where I was, the army surrounded the whole village that was in Kabalagala. It arrested me straight away to Kabalagala police station, where I was detained for 3 days. In only that period of 2 months, I was detained 17 times with no crime, with no track of theft, with no track of any crime ever. It was my first time to be in prison for several times for no good reason, but rather than the struggle of the people.
Thank you. A few more hands, please.
Asanteni sana, mimi nitatumia Kiswahili. Naongea kuhusu watoto yangu wenye walikuwa na president. Hao watoto wanaitwa Sami and Bobi wa Might Family. Hiyo wakati walinyanyaswa sana sana tena sana. Kwanza huyo Sami aling'olewa nywele zote, alikuwa na dread hiyo wakati.
I want to translate for our Ugandan comrades. Yes? Okay, let's do this again.
I do. So, watoto wakashikwa hivyo, wakanyanyashwa vibaya sana sana sana. Huyu aling'olewa nywele, huyo Bobi akafungwa pamoja na Nubianili, Edimutwe, Mapo Media, nadhani mlikuwa mnajua hao.
She had 2 of her children arrested, and they were abused. One of them had dreadlocks, they were plucked, and the other one was also beaten very much.
Yes. Yeah, that's mine. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sarah Biret is my name. I'm the Executive Director, Center for Constitutional Governance. During elections, we were doing pictorial coverage of all presidential candidates everywhere. So we had set up a press unit in the office, and we are all covering every media, including social and digital media platforms. So we covered the news of the arrest. We were following through the live channels that People Power movement was doing, as well as other media. And we got the news in our press unit, and we still have the pictorial coverage of day-to-day violent presidential elections in Uganda. That day, all the staff slept at office in the chairs because we could not get out.
Thank you. More hands from this side, and then we'll bring it to a close. Yes.
People power, our power. My name is Lena Zedriga. I am the Deputy President, National Unity Platform Party, in charge of Northern Uganda. The news found me in Gulu. I had actually just arrived because His Excellency and the team had been in Northern Uganda the previous week, where I myself had also been arrested with the entire team from Northern Uganda, brutally abducted, beaten up, and imprisoned with men. And after I was released, he was very safely delivered, I thought, to Eastern region. So I left to go to Northern Uganda. As I arrived in Gulu, that was when I had the news. I just made a U-turn to come to camp in solidarity. And also I remember that day, 2 of my sons were brutally beaten and arrested. True. Nathan and Francis.
Thank you, sir. My name, I'm called Chambade Slight from Chotela. That news found me in prison where I lost my eye until today. Thank you.
Asante sana. My name is Agoda Moses. I'm the People's MP Hoima East Constituency and the Youth Secretary, Western Uganda, NUP. That news found me in the police van. I was arrested that day, actually prior to that day, on allegations that I'm mobilizing the whole of Hoima City to demonstrate, and well, indeed, we were going to demonstrate. But shockingly, a few hours later, the police officers were telling me that how we wish we had not arrested you. Indeed, it was going to be massive. We are also tired. So that one gave me more courage to fight harder. Thank you so much.
I'm Fausta Vitano from Makindye. The news found me in the market. After 2 days, of 17th, after arresting the president, I remember we had a boy along Chibuye Road, Entebbe Road, who used to hold a big post of Mr. President. That boy, he was a neighbor to us. He was murdered, slaughtered. The head was put in the sack by the regime of Mr. Museveni. After 2 days of arresting my president, Bobi Wine. Thank you.
Thank you. By names of Sempija Brian. The news found me in the hospital. I was in the hospital because I was beaten a tear gas canister, evidenced by my fingers. So by then, by the time we went, as I was in the hospital, I called my friends that our president arrested. What is there on the village? They started mobilizing themselves, and they started going to the police. Thank you.
Juliet Nakaisa. Okay, for me, the news found me in town. I was in Kampala, around Mini Praise. So when the people in Kampala had the arrest of our president in Luka, because for us we are planning to go and join him that side, after the people had that news that the president has been arrested, people started rioting. Then in that process, a lady who was carrying some food from down was shot, and even another mother who was serving her kid, they were going to shop some things. The boy was shot. The police, the police came and surrounded many people who were in town. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. We will have more opportunity for colleagues to share. But there's a burning hand here. She will not forgive me if I don't give her an opportunity. Please run to the front and share, and we'll end with you for now.
It was not news to me. It happened before my very eyes because I was with the president in Luka. So they arrested him in my presence. There was a lot of tear gas. Bullets, they fired bullets. Elderly people were trampled upon. We even chased I chased the president's vehicle up to Nalufenya, where we were stopped, and I had to head to Kampala because the road was blocked. So when I headed to Kampala, there was chaos. By the time we arrived in Kampala, bullets were flying all over. There were roadblocks all over, everywhere. And around Namugongo, because we passed via Kayunga, around Namugongo, we were taken out of our car and beaten because we were putting on red. So they said, you are causing this chaos. Get out of your car and remove all the stones and the trees, the leaves that were put in people had put as roadblocks in the road. So we had to get out of our car, clear the road, and we were made to lay down for about an hour. Then we were asked to head on because people were shouting all over. The people were on the buildings shouting, people power, our power. And then the policemen just told us, you leave because you're causing more chaos. So that's how we survived.
Thank you. My name is Nicholas Magezi. The news of arresting His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi and other comrades found me in Segugu, where we had a meeting and security forces, they found
Please, you have a strong voice. Please, we need to hear that. You said you were beaten very well. I'd like you to explain how. And maybe Bobi Wine should also tell us whether he agrees with the resident dictator that he was beaten very well, or properly, as the dictator said.
Thank you. Once again, I'm Nicholas Magezi. The news of arresting His Excellency Mr. Kyagulanyi and other comrades found us in Segugu, where we had a meeting on the following day. Security forces, they found us there, and they gave us, I think, what they wanted to give us. They beat us, they tortured us, up to the extent some of our comrades died. As I speak, as you see me here, I lost my life, but I'm still alive, because I lost some parts of my body.
Thank you for sharing.
I'm out of my words, because if I remember the day security forces beat us in Segugu, because even I lost some of my friends. Some of my friends, others are still in Chigo, in Kampala prisons. I don't know even how I can start sharing this, because this story is a sad story, because I lost some of comrades, others are still in the prison, others are still in the hospital. But once again, I want to thank His Excellency and NUP team that had been giving us treatment, that has been giving us everything we need. Thank you, His Excellency, and NUP leaders.
Thank you. There's a hand here, Jerry.
I would request someone to translate it for me. Let me use my mother tongue so that our people can listen and get my point. Nze Charles Mpanga.
My name is Charles Mpanga,
aka Map Media TV.
Also known as Map Media TV.
Nkolanga munnamawulire wa NUP.
I work as a journalist for the National Unity Platform.
Olunaku olwo nali nkavalinga president nga tugenda eruuka.
On that day, nali nsaka, since you said you were coveringa, so I'm also translating to Luganda. But go ahead.
Twali tuyingira Luuka.
We were entering Luka district.
Agali gambadde black ne mundu zesirabangako ne batusalako.
We were apprehended by military officers in black.
Baatugamba abamawulire tetugenda kukkirizibwa.
We were told we were not going to be allowed as journalists.
Bayaza amamotoka gaffe naye ne tusalawo abamu twali twakola lobadaba style akagambo president waffe Kyagulanyi ke yatuyigiriza.
Our cars were searched, but we were able to get away with our equipment.
Twagezaako okubalaga emmotoka nga ate bwe tusonga engalo abamu batuyitemu bagende bakavalinga president.
We were able to maneuver and get away with some vehicles and equipment.
Abasigala emabega baali bagezaako okulaba nti batuziyiza okukwata ebifaananyi obutagenda mu bantu, naye bannaffe abamu ne bafuna chance ne bagenda ewali president ne bakwata.
A number of officers stayed behind to ensure that we do not broadcast.
Twawaganya naffe ku mmotoka ze baali bagezaako okusalako, naffe ne tuzivuga ne tuyingira. President twamusanga batandise omukwata. Twamugoba emisinde ne batwekiika mu kkubo. Emiggo gyavuga, nze simanyi emiggo gyankubwa ku olwo.
Okay, I have to translate that.
Omusango ogusinga.
Just hold on, wait. That's an important detail. We were able to pursue the vehicle in which the president who had been arrested was being driven, and there was a hail of beatings and cans. He personally does not know how many got onto his body.
naye ng'ekyali kisinga otukubya singa ogezaako n'olaga ku kadi y'amawulire egyo gyali emiggo tetwamanya nti mu Uganda guba musango okubeera munnamawulire.
Being a journalist was criminalized, especially holding a card that identified you as one was an offense.
Nali nziruka nze nvuga ate nze nkutte kamera kubanga driver wange baali bamaze omukuba.
I was driving while filming.
Twatuuka mu kkubo nga Eddie Mutwe, Mark driver wa president, Akirewo Kivumbi, Dan Magiki ne Franka ne Ashraf Kasirye bagudde ku ttaka. Tetwalina kyakola okujjako ate okuddako emabega okubakasuka mu mmotoka eyali okumpi era ka video ako nenkakwata speed nenkasaayo nenvuga ate ngende Nalufenya gye batutte president.
Okay, all those names are of people who had been hit. I think Ashraf Kasiri was shot in the head. Eddie Mutwe here had also been temporarily put out of action, and several others had been severely injured. So he had to carry them with others into vehicle.
Tuba tutuuka e Nalufenya ffe twalowooza nti tuli bannamawulire naye akaguwa ke baatuterawo gaalinga masasi ge baakubanga layini not to cross.
He and his journalist colleagues thought that because they were journalists, they would be allowed to get into Nalufenya police station, prison, but they were instead kept out by the use of bullets that were fired in a line to show that they shouldn't cross that line.
Amangu ago na coordinatinga omwana akola ku camera 2 eya Mapu Media TV ne mugamba switchinge on camera eri mu kibuga wakati Kampala.
I asked a colleague to turn on camera 2 which covers Kampala.
Nchiwa nti kamera eyo yagolokosa abantu bangi okumanya nti president waffe ddala kituufu bamaze omukwata.
That camera did a crucial job in informing the population about what was happening.
Ndowooza ngenda okutunula ku kamera ekyanzizaamu amaanyi nti twali tutuuse mu 24K viewership abaali ku live essaawa ezo.
We had a huge audience at that point of 24,000. Nsaba Sebo or Funze.
Yes. Nga maliriza nti abasigala e Nalufenya twali tusabira bali mu Central nga n'abali mu Central basabira ffe abali e Nalufenya. Bwe zaawera ssaawa 12 ez'akawungeezi ne batutega akamotoka nti president bamutadde omwo ne tugoba akamotoka mpaka Gayaza. Unfortunately ne tusanga nga ate si bwe bamutadde ate ne tuvuga ate ne tudde e Nalufenya.
A ploy was hatched and they followed the ploy where a decoy car was used to make them believe that Bobi Wine had been put in a certain vehicle, whereas not, and they pursued that vehicle only to realize later that they were following a dead lead.
Mu ebyo nga byakaggwa nga tukyanyiga ebiwundu nze omu ku bannamawulire gwe bakwatira e Kalangala emikono gino gyekutte microphone n'amagulu gano nze omu gwe basooka okusalako ne bansibira e Kalangala okumala emyezi 8.
He is one of the journalists that were arrested in Kalangala Islands and was imprisoned. His limbs were bound for 8 months in custody.
Ogunsibya ogwansitusibya ne bannange kubeera nti mpagira oba nkwata ebifaananyi ebya National Unity Platform ate nga ngoberera His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu.
His only offense being a supporter of and a journalist for the National Unity Platform. Thank you very much for sharing. So that brings this brief segment to an end. Njeri would like to... Okay, we have, if you have a copy of the program, which I'm sure many of you have, there is a screening of a short video about human rights violations in Museveni's Uganda. That will be conducted outside this auditorium. But for now, would like to proceed to have the keynote address. But I'd like to encourage all of us to, when the time allows, to step out and view that short video. It's illustrative, it's informative, and for anyone who wants to appreciate what has happened, to see some of these things in motion, these incidents here that are lined up here and outside, you could go take a look at that recording. Now I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Andrew David Omona, who will deliver the keynote address this morning. He is the Dean of the School of Social Sciences at Uganda Christian University and National Coordinator, Religious Leaders, Justice and Peace Network, Uganda. Please welcome Dr. Andrew David Omona. So, Dr. Omona, I should disclose to the audience that you were my lecturer at the School of Law, UCU. You used to cut short our presentations and tell us we have 5 minutes. Today I'm going to revenge. You have 20 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Andrew, for ushering me in. As he said, my name is Omona Andrew David. I do many work, and one of which is to teach. I would like to thank the Kenyan Human Rights Commission for extending this invitation to me, and our political leaders in Uganda for coming to be part of this discussion. And you, ladies and gentlemen, you peace-loving Ugandans, ardent supporters of human rights accountability in our country. I'm going to give a brief highlight on a topic that I have given as human rights landscape in Uganda, a narrative of contradictions. When you talk about human rights, these are rights that are given to all of us, and no one gives us because we have been given this by birth. But if you look at the situation in Uganda, right from when we started as a country, the narrative of human rights is full of contradictions. Like a hydra in Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, a hydra is a snake-like monster with 9 heads. Of these 9 heads, 8 are mortal and 1 head is immortal. And whenever the mortal heads are cut, other mortal heads emerge from the wounds of the cut head. So if there are 9, 1 is cut, then 2 will emerge or more, and the head keeps growing. This monster, according to the Greek mythology, lived in a marsh near Lena, in the place of Lena near Argos, from which this monster usually emerges to torment animals and human beings of Lena. People tried to kill this monster, but every time they tried, they failed. And one man, Heracles, took it upon himself as one of the 12 things that he had said to do. But he tried every time he cut the head, other heads emerged. So not until he had to employ the service of his nephew, Hiodas, and Hiodas kept assisting him whenever the head was cut. He would seal it so that other heads will not emerge from this cut wound. And not until Hercules was able to cut the immortal head, and got the head buried under a rock and then inflicted the final pain on the hydra that made it die completely. As you'll recall, at independence, many writers say Uganda began on a right platform. The first 2 years, vestiges of colonial administration was rooted out, and the nationals took over the country. And people got excited that we are in charge of our own affairs. The government took to construct schools, hospitals, roads, and other social amenities. But this was only short-lived. When cracks started developing between them, it eventually got ugly, and the innocent people felt the brunt. The monster started emerging, and many people during the first period of our independence in the 1960s, those of you who were alive, I was not born yet, test or attest to these facts. And as things continued, even the people who sat together could no longer sit together. The military got involved in this saga, and the military for the first time became the arbiter of political controversies in the country and entrenched themselves into the political life of the country. And of course, you get a military man who is there to obey orders. Once an order is given, the order is done to the best of the giver of orders. And these and others led to cutting of the head of the hydra that was disturbing the people of Uganda. In 1971, people saw Obote as the problem of Uganda, as the monster that was disturbing Uganda. And the military, with Amin taking over, giving good 18 points for taking over government, and accusing the past government of detention without trials, and other human rights related issues. And when you read the 18 points that the military gave to take over the government, you may think this is now a group of people who will make things better. But the better was not realized by the people. Not long after that, the real character of the military, in the person of their chief executive, started showing up. The cut head of the hydra led to the growing of more heads, and with a lot of pharaoh. People disappeared, people were tortured. I remember that time I was a young boy, born in 1970. My father was working somewhere, and there were people who were guarding an airfield that was near our home. And there were some soldiers who used to come home and chat with us. Whenever they got rations, they could bring for us children, and we were happy. But from nowhere, we could not see these people coming. And our parents told us that those people were taken and killed. These are people from Acholi and Olango. And brute was the force that it started killing its own, even in uniform. And everyone took position to do whatever he could do in the name of keeping the state. And yet the other day, of the 18 points, human rights abuses were echoed as things that are coming to close. Then fast forward, peace-loving, human rights ardent Ugandans mobilized with the Tanzanian forces, and Uganda was liberated. And people sang, people were liberated. And the name of the forces were the liberators, liberating us from what? From tyranny. But what ensued thereafter even became worse. Those who saw bodies littered around the country, littered around the roads, and so forth. And then I was just in primary 1, but my schooling was punctuated with a lot of confusion. At times you take a long time not going to school, and so forth. And the years that followed, some of us slept more in the bush than in our houses, because whatever was happening was bad. For my case, I was in a Germany, and then there was a rebel group led by Moses Ali. Whenever those groups come, the UNLA will come after that and torture the people that you are part of the rebels. Whenever the rebels come, they accuse you of supporting the government, and so you don't know where to belong. Rights abusers. And they did this at will. And people's hands were all tied behind them. No one could do anything. Then the 80s, the late 70s, and then mid-80s. People thought things were getting better. Amin was gone. The head of the Hydra was cut. Less did the people know that more heads were going to grow on the Hydra. And the same situation started replaying, if not even worse. The forces that liberated the country became even more terrible. Revenge killings, torture of the innocent, and so forth defined the country. I remember my brother visited Arua, and they were made to lie, to be shot. Then he raised up his hand, he spoke, and they told him to get up. But before he could rescue the people who he had visited, the order was given, and all those who were lying down became corpses. And that was the country that we lived in. The liberators from human rights abuses became abusers, even terrible, of human rights. Each group that came with different agenda. One promising restoration of peace, prosperity, and so forth, but in actual sense, it is just a cover-up of yet what is to follow. When Obote became the president, things of course continued in the 80s. And Tito Okello eventually overthrew the government, claiming the same mistakes. But the situation continued. Our current president, feeling cheated during the elections, went to the bush and started talking things that people thought would be good. And people like Dr. Besigye, Muntu, eventually joined, knowing that things will be better because the picture was painted bright. Liberating Uganda from the hands of tyranny. And the 10-point program was put forward, started politicizing, and this is our agenda, and eventually took over power in 86. I had just completed P7 in 85. And we were not sure of whether we'll go to school. And when the government fell off, we were excited because it opened us the way to go to Senior 1. And we went to Senior 1. We overheard that a pro-civilian armed forces have come to the scene of Uganda. And to prove this, the errant soldiers were firing squad. The soldiers who committed some crimes were shot dead in public. And people said, yes, this is now a civilian-faced government. And then immediately, a commission of inquiry into human rights abuses was launched. Justice Oder and his team were given a task to do. I have flipped through the pages of that report, though not many Ugandans have seen. Just like the commission of inquiry that Amin instituted to look at the disappearance of Ugandans, then this commission was just targeted from 9th October 1962 to 25th January 1986. And when you read at the report, you found that some of the reports were just meant to confirm what somebody wants to start with. And unfortunately, because of some aspects of the report was not made public. If you want to get the report, you have to go through external sources to get the report. The army started at it again, abusing people's rights. I went collecting data for my PhD, and some of the stories that I gathered could not be taken by people who have faint-hearted. See somebody first cry before they tell you their story. stories of abuses across the country. Economic deprivation, raping of women and girls, sodomy of men in front of the members of their families started manifesting. Fast forward, 1995. A new constitution was promulgated with a beautiful preamble. Let me read word for word. We, the people of Uganda, recalling our history, which has been characterized by political and constitutional instability, recognizing our struggle against the forces of tyranny, oppression, and exploitation, committed to building a better future by establishing a socio-economic and political order through a popular and durable national constitution based on the participation on the principle of unity, peace, equality, democracy, freedom, social justice, and progress, exercising our sovereignty and inalienable rights to determine the form of governance for our country, and having fully participated in the constitution-making process, noting that a constituent assembly was established to represent us and to debate the draft constitution prepared by the Uganda Constitution Commission, and to adopt and enact a constitution for Uganda, do hereby, in and through this Constitution Assembly, solemnly adopt, enact, and give to ourselves, our posterity, this Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, this 22nd day of September in the year 1995. A very good preamble. When you read this, you get to know that we, through this, set to correct the wrongs that bedeviled our country over the years. But did we get it? Beautiful preamble indeed. And a whole chapter of the Constitution, chapter 4, is dedicated to human rights and freedoms. But we are witnessing the contrary. With time, of course, series of acts came up to undo what has been done in the name of terrorism, the Terrorist Act, the Computer Misuse Act, Uganda Communications Act, and so forth, were put up to muzzle the people. I and Kasozi and our colleagues, we took it upon ourselves to go around the country and work for justice and peace. But we were misunderstood. One time I was asked, who do you work for? I say, I work for all. I work for peace and justice. Where there is justice, then we will have achieved what we are working for. But you see that Rights abuse has been the order of the day. Informal groups like the Kiboko squads, the chieftaincy of military intelligence, having safe houses. People talked about the dungeon of Nakasero. We have many safe houses in the country. You get a general standing up saying, we shall shoot and kill, and nothing happens. Court-martial, targeted, even civilians tried. Militarized police, only beating those with different views. The past elections. When other people go to campaign, they violate the SOPs. But when the head of state goes, SOPs put aside. And the situation that we saw happen this day in 2020 was just but a series of happenings that our people have gone through. People have been disabled. People cannot speak. That which is supposed to be good for the country is not seen to be the good. Good is defined, or rights of people is defined by who says it is a right. We have resources of the country, but you hear some people saying, my oil, my this. Karamoja, a resource-rich area. But can you imagine the people of Karamoja starving? My sister was working there as a medical officer, and she said at one time, women could go to the streams and pick gold, and then they exchange the gold for posho. But they have been denied now to get to this gold. You have had LC officials killed by the military just because, in Karamoja, just because they were trying to open the eyes of the masses. A friend of mine went to Karamoja and told those people, you are fighting for the cows, but even what you're working on is more than the cows, you don't know. But there are some people who know. Uganda launched a satellite recently, and it is meant to scan the country, locate the mineral areas, and such location will be renegated in the hands of a few who are more Ugandans than other Ugandans. According to the US State Department report on Uganda of 2020, human rights abuses in Uganda is part of the daily occurrence. And recently, the Makerere University, Huripek, also released their report. And the same is said again and again. The other time, some of us were enlisted to be foot soldiers of the purported peace commission that people were drumming to come up with. The elders of Uganda, the religious leaders of Uganda, and all other people who were concerned drummed up, and we thought something was going to come. We'll sit down and talk. But the hopes disappeared in thin air. As we talk to ourselves, as we reflect on what is going on in our country, let us be mindful of also doing the right so that people will see us in the right and following that which we need to happen. The other time, Dr. Kiza Besigye was arrested in his own house. I and Kasozi and others went to visit him so that we talked to him. We were told to go away. That was, I think, 2016. When we were turned away, we went to see Honorable Amama Mbabazi. We found there were no security forces there. We went and had time with him. We attempted to make appointments to see the president, to see Kale Kehura and others. We were not allowed because people saw us to be trouble causers. And yet our intention was to see that everybody who is in Uganda live in peace, we see justice, and good interpersonal relationship in our country. As we talk, let us act, because today it is others who have disappeared, tomorrow you'll be the one disappearing. Yesterday, other people were taken to prison, and as I hear of the testimonies, beaten. Tomorrow it may be you to be beaten. But before you are beaten or arrested, try to talk it out so that people who care about the country will join hands and ensure that we see something good happening in our country. For God and my country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. David Omona Andrew. You guys have not done justice to appreciate him. Thank you. He does a fantastic job of periodizing Uganda's post-independence experience along the 9 or so regimes that we've had. And he uses an analogy of a hydra. A hydra is a mythical animal in Greek folklore that cannot easily die. Every time you cut off one head, 5 or more heads come out of that animal called a hydra. And this is the canvas that he uses to paint the keynote address that he has very eloquently delivered. Dr. Omona decries the repetitive trends of misrule, militarism, and rights abuses that run through the country's post-independence lifetime. He also indicts the Museveni regime, which has ruled for longer than previous presidents combined, and beginning with encouraging, while these regimes, just like Amin's, began with hopeful statements, actions like restraining their soldiers, use of the firing squad to rein in errant officers, the same regimes have become what they purportedly fought against. He's talked about atrocities such as rape as a weapon of war in particularly northern Uganda, economic deprivation, and that even with a constitution that was promulgated in 1995 and the hope that it represented, we've still reverted to the same state of affairs that we were in pre-1995. He talks about the trends of legislation like the Computer Misuse Act, Anti-Terrorism Law, Anti-Money Laundering Act, and several
direction of the authorities and our submissions. And if your lordships and your ladyship grant me latitude, let me start by characterizing the pleadings before you. You will note, number one, that the pleadings before you suffer from lack of focus and particularity. Number two, you will note that if one was a legal Puritan, the main affidavit by the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is actually a defective affidavit. My learned teacher, Feroz Naroji, is here. You cannot start an affidavit with "we." I'm simply characterizing that affidavit. Number two, you will note that the affidavits offend Order 19, Rule 1 of the Civil Procedure Rules. The affidavits are full of hearsay. And I want to submit that Article 159 is the refuge of those who are on a fishing expedition. I'm inviting your lordships and your ladyships to examine those affidavits to their full effect. Number two, I want to be in a position to characterize what animated the petitioners to file this petition. And I'm submitting to you that this petition is an afterthought. I don't have enough copies, but I will take you, if you permit me, to the foundational reason given by the principles of the political coalition called NASA, and read on the 15th of August by the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. This is what the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga read. We had said we will not go to court, but with the raid on civil society and determination to silence all voices that could redress legal, like AFRICOG and Kenya human rights, we have now decided to move to court. But the pièce de résistance is this. Our decision to go to court constitutes a second chance for the Supreme Court to use this to redeem itself. That is the basis upon which I'm locating my case and justifying why this particular case is here.
Just a minute, Mr. Mumba. Yes, Mr. Orengo?
I'm just saying this report is not a rostrum to speechifying adoration. You should tell us where that statement comes from and whether it was on record.
My Lord, this is a statement that is in the public
domain. If it's not on record, then
Just, Mr. Orengo, you will notice that we have been very, very patient. Mr. Lumumba is looking at the clock. He has the minutes. As soon as, if he goes on a tangent, as soon as the time runs out, we'll ask him to sit down.
Absolutely.
Thank
and
you.
I'm not going on a tangent. So that your lordships and your ladyship, that is what animated this case, and that is the reason why the pleadings are the way they are. And if you look at the submissions that have been made, the first submission is made by the Honorable James Sorengo. And the Honorable James Sorengo refers you to Article 1 of the Constitution in response. He says that this petition is essentially a petition of the people of Kenya. We are submitting to you that this is a petition by two petitioners about an electoral result. And that therefore, when you are looking at this petition, the question to ask is whether your petitioners have satisfied the requirements of the law in proving their case. And we have demonstrated, the submissions have been made to demonstrate very clearly that there is no case that has been proven. My lords, you will note that in the submissions made by the Honorable Orengo, he submits that a number of votes that have been cast, and this is also shared by Paul Otiende Amolo, that out of the 15-odd million votes, only 23,000 of them are in doubt. My Lord, the maxim of law used to be de minimis non curat lex. Professor Juang taught me that, and he'll remember. Of small things, the law knows no cure. And I'm submitting to us that what we have here are petty grievances, administrative errors, and no court in the world has ever nullified a presidential election on the basis of what falls under the de minimis rule. The second presentation made to you is through the submission of my good friend Otiende Amolo, who brings to the table what he calls numerical and non-numerical issues. And Otiende, in his submission, says that this court should only focus on what he describes as the substantive. In other words, numbers do not matter in an election. My lords and your ladyship, what then matters in an election? What matters in an election is that individuals come and vote, and those votes are counted, and the voice, the will of the people is expressed in that way. My Lord, I refer you to Article 86 of the Constitution, which says that at every election, the Independent Electoral Commission shall ensure that whatever voting method is used, the system is simple, accurate, verifiable. I'll not address you on those details. My good friend Otiende went into characterizing those. Who must verify? In whose eyes must they be simple? Madame CJ, as he then was in the case of Stanley Munga Githunguri, said, the test is the man in the Pangani bus, the ordinary man. What you are shown here, complete with Pythagoras' theorem, to tell us what the voting went, that is not what the test of the election is. The test is very simple. And we have demonstrated through our affidavits that are on record, which I invite you to look at to their full effect, that the system was simple. And I want to imagine that your lordships and your ladyships walked there yourselves. You are identified. You are given 6 ballots. You marked your preferred candidate. That is how simple it was. It does not require Pythagoras' theorem. My Lord, after the Otiende had talked about given us the Pythagoras theorem, we had Okongo Omogeni's submissions. And Okongo Omogeni is my very good friend, and I love the submissions. They were in the nature of asking you to make prescriptions for law reform. That is not what you are here to do, and your lordship was very correct in telling him that that is at a forum to which he will belong after he's sworn in. In other words, what is before you is the determination of this petition on the basis of the prescription of the law, not on the basis of law reform issues. My good friend Mutaha Kangu was even more interesting and amusing. The thumb rule, never quote yourself. Mutaha Kangu, in his submission, quoted his book, quoted the writings of Waikwa. Those are opinions of individuals. Those are not things that should guide this court. And I'm submitting to us that on the evidence that has been adduced before you, and every allegation has indeed been answered blow by blow, the test is as found in Article 83 of the Constitution and the 2013 Raila case. It is noteworthy that you are referred to an 1872 English statute, that is the Ballot Act. I'm submitting to us that this court, and I want to submit to your lordships, that when this court is sitting in determination of a presidential election, your jurisdiction is sui generis. Sui generis because you are sitting as a court of first and last instance. And therefore, when you exercise your jurisdiction, it is actually an insult to you to be asked to look at a statute that governs county elections in the United Kingdom. I'm submitting respectfully that you ignore such invitation. You are then taken by Otiende Amolo into what he described as the standard of proof. And this was also addressed by my learned friend Mutaha Kangu. And Mutaha Kangu made a very amazing proposition that the duty of the petitioner is to establish a prima facie case. And that once they establish a prima facie case, then the burden shifts. Nothing, respectfully, your lordships and your ladyships, can be further from the truth. The truth is, and this is the rule of the thumb, he who alleges must prove. And I'm submitting to you that your petitioners have made allegations, they have made many things, but they have not proven anything. My lord, you are then taken to the case that has now been cited ad nauseum, the case of Maina Kiai. And it's instructive that when my good learned friend and my student Antonio Luoch showed the video stopped at a very convenient point where the late Musando said, and the chairman cannot vary the results. That's where it stopped. And the Honorable Justice Ojwang asked the question of what evidential value. If your lordship look at the Evidence Act at section 106B, you will discover that the manner in which that video was introduced offends all rules of submission of evidence under our jurisdiction. I'm therefore submitting to us that in totality what you have is a litany of allegations that are literally standing on stilts and have only one fate. They fall when they have been faced by the weight of evidence that we have supplied. The other question that was raised is on the significance of elections. And this was Mutaha Kangu at Article 4 of the Constitution. He said that elections, and the Honorable Justice Mokin Wanjala was right and quick in saying that the lecture was Constitutional Law 101, in which he tried to educate us on what a republic is. But my submission is that in this petition, what we are grappling with is that the people of Kenya in their totality came out on the 8th day of August and expressed their will. This court should be very reluctant to overturn the will of the people of Kenya unless it can be demonstrated that indeed that will was subverted. And it has been demonstrated by the first respondent and the second respondent, the first and the second respondent, that indeed all the prescriptions of the law, and this, my lord, when you retire, I do not want to belabor this issue. When you retire, the question that I invite you respectfully to ask, what is the litmus test? And my lords, when you look at our list of authorities, which has a number of authorities which I'll not take you through, it was filed on the 25th day of August, the year 2017, with a total of 30 authorities. The first authority is the Constitution. And what we invite your lordships and your ladyships to do is to look at the Constitution and ask the question, did this election satisfy the prescriptions of Article 81? And in my respectful submission, it did. Did it satisfy the prescriptions of Article 86? And in my respectful submission, it did. And once you've looked at the Constitution, the next question that you will ask yourselves, that when you look at the enabling legislation, did it satisfy those pieces of legislation? Did it satisfy the regulations? And the answer is that it did. And when you arrive at that finding, the only decision that I invite you to arrive at is that the people of the Republic of Kenya on the 8th day of August did express their will, and the first and second respondent did midwife. Remember, your lordships and your ladyships, ours is midwifery. We delivered a baby. That baby is alive and well. You are being asked to strangle the baby. Decline the invitation. Decline the invitation because the baby is alive and well. The next issue that we want to submit on as I draw to the conclusion, because I want to be very pointed, is to draw you to our own submissions. My Lord, I've always said that when one wants to submit for too long, it tells you that there is actually no case. That which is clear is stated in a very brief manner. My Lord, if you look at our own submissions, which submissions were filed, dated the 25th day of August this year, we used the submissions to address all the issues that are germane to this petition. And I want to draw your attention to pages 2 through to pages 3, paragraphs number 5. Paragraph number 5 is important because it captures the essence of our case and simply tells us that the election of a president is a process. It is not an event. And if you look at the totality of the process, you will discover that this process is a process that satisfied the requirements of the law. And we have demonstrated at the point of identification, at the point of result, the point of counting, the forms 34, forms 34A, B, C, and D, up to the transmission, and we have demonstrated beyond peradventure that indeed this was an election that complied with the law. My Lord, I also want us to look at in our own list of authorities on pages 8 through to page 11. You will discover that those are the pages that deal with the entire process. And it is worth noting that your petitioners, through their agents or through their sympathizers, have before this date litigated every aspect of the election. That is in the public domain. Every aspect has been litigated, including the procurement of ballot papers, including submission, including the transmission of results, so that as we come here, if one were to use the word res judicata loosely, I will not. I would say that these issues are res judicata, but I will not say that, knowing that your jurisdiction is sui generis. So the totality of our submissions, your lordships and your ladyships, is that we have demonstrated through the various affidavits that this petition is destitute of merit. And because it is destitute of merit, it should suffer only one fate, the fate of dismissal. But there are two things I want to say before I sit down. That when you look at your petitioners' written submissions, they suffer the same fate as all their pleadings. The rule of the thumb is that you don't use your submissions to introduce new evidence. Their submissions are used to introduce new evidence, thus offending all the rules that govern written submissions. In a nutshell, my lords and your ladyship, what you have before you in my respectful submission is a petition that is dead on arrival. What you have before you is a petition that is replete with speculation, is a petition that does not have the evidential weight that is worthy of overturning the election that was conducted by the first respondent and its chairman, the chairman